Today we're going to show you how we make our soil blocks. This afternoon's project we're making micro 20s. Those are the smallest of the soil blocks, and I'll explain more about what I mean in a minute about those. First, let me tell you about our mixture. We make our own mixture. There's a variety of recipes out there. We've experimented with different ones. There's basically some peat moss in there, there's some soil, there is some compost and some organic fertilizers. We have a whole list. We try to follow it like a recipe as if you were baking in the kitchen or something. You need to get it right. You can experiment, but you also want to get the consistency right. We use classifiers also. We have 5-gallon bucket classifiers. We use that to make sure that all of the ingredients that are going into our soil are the right consistency. You don't want any particles that are too large. We also have a large classifier that we use outside when we're doing big batches. It's motorized and it's a really fast way to classify soil. But sometimes we'll just make small batches in the greenhouse, and the bucket classifiers are great for that. So anyway, we've made a large batch of our soil blocker mixture here. And what I do then is, for the micro 20s, I transfer some of that into a smaller container. It makes it easier to get the right level of thickness on the soil. You can see there I've got maybe 3/4 or an inch of soil depth, and if you get the depth right, it just makes it easier to actually make the soil blocks. So let me show you how I do that. This is the soil blocker. This is called the micro 20 because it has 20 individual little soil blocks on it, and it's the smallest one. We use this for starting seedlings. So the way you do it is you get your mixture just right, not too wet, not too dry, and that does take experimentation. And you're going to push the soil blocker down into the soil, scrape it side to side. Sometimes you might want to get a little extra. Make sure it's nice and full, and you'll want to see some of the liquid coming out the tops of the soil blocks. That tells you you've got enough liquid in there and you've got the right amount of soil in there. So then I do a sort of a twist and lift maneuver to get it off the bottom. Sometimes if I see there's a little bit of extra soil, I will scrape it on the bottom of my container. Just gets the bottoms of the soil blocks a little bit flatter. Bring them over to your tray, and we've been using these recycled meat trays, but you can use baking tins or just about anything you want. You're going to push down on the spring lever here. That's going to compress the soil, and as you're doing it, you're going to lift on the main handle of the soil blocker. And if everything goes correctly, you'll be able to lift the soil blocker off, and you'll be left with 20 of your little soil blocks in the tray. And you can just fill the trays up as full as you want. Try to get as much use out of your trays as possible. And sometimes it's fun to have just a small tray of a few things you're experimenting with, or if we're doing like our tomatoes, we'll be using an entire baking sheet full of micro 20s. And again, just compress and gently release, and there's your micro 20s. Oh, also, it's nice to rinse your tool off every couple blocks you make, maybe every time, doesn't matter, but keep a tray of water here. It just keeps things clean. If your hands get grungy, just a nice place to dry off your hands. So what we'll do with these now is we'll plant our seeds directly into these soil blocks. There's no containers involved. The seeds will germinate directly in these little blocks, and the advantage is that when you go to transplant, there's no transplant shock. The roots will be called air pruned because they'll grow to the edge of the block, and they'll just naturally get thicker and stronger inside the block instead of getting all root bound around the inside of a container like a traditional container would be. These are some we've started earlier, and you can see they're just little compressed blocks of soil. Here's a little seedling here, and this one's not quite ready to transplant, but if it were, we can drop these into another soil block. We've got another size up that has a hole this big in the top of it, and I'll show you those in a different video, where the seedlings are actually transplanted into another soil blocker. Here again is another little seedling that's coming up nice and strong in our soil blocks. So that's how we start our seedlings for any of the smaller seeds, peppers, tomatoes, herbs, any of that kind of stuff. We're going to start in these small ones, and gives you the opportunity to get a lot of seedlings going. If you have some that don't make it, you're only transplanting your successful seed starts, and it's a great use of space. You can have a lot of seedlings going in a very small amount of space. So just a really efficient way to garden, and it's great for the plants. There's just almost no transplant shock, and it works great. Here you can see some other ones that we've got started. There are some of the little ones. These are some that are larger that have been transplanted into. I don't know if you can see in this video here, there is the larger depression where you can drop the small soil blocks directly into when you go to transplant. In fact, I can probably show you how that would work right now. You would just take the small Micro 20 and literally drop it right inside the top of the other one. And that's how you up-pot. So, works great. We love it. Been doing it for 2 seasons now, and pretty much we won't go back to containers. This is absolutely the way to go. So thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and post them, and we'll do what we can to answer everything that you ask.